Welcome to the February update of the Willoughby, New Haven. I want to address a bunch of feedback that I got from my last update. I apologize for all the camera movements. When I do these updates, I do them very quickly and don't put a whole lot of premeditated thought into camera angles and whatnot. It's basically a show and tell of what I've been up to. So I'm going to try to keep that in mind in the future. On this update, I'll try to use a tripod as much as I can, but that's not really feasible on a lot of shots, so I'll just try to keep things a little bit more still. I take that criticism to heart and apologize for making last episode unpleasant for people. However, I did reach a normal high level of viewership, so it wasn't terrible, I guess, for most people, but again, it's valid criticism. So this first shot is on a tripod, so I'm listening. So this is looking at a quick mock-up of the structure that I've got against the backdrop that I had featured last update, as a way to kind of hide the end of the railroad heading off farther east towards Boston. The 3 tracks are going to be going underneath this structure here, and it's connected to this structure here. This is probably a little too high for being that close to the edge of the layout. I've got another mock-up that I want to start working on soon, but I think I decided to go with the ITLA modular system as opposed to kit bashing or using duplicate kits, probably by Walders or something, or completely scratch building something. Completely scratch building is too big of a venture. Kit bashing I don't think will give me the flexibility that I'm looking for this type of project. So I'm working on the mock-ups to kind of figure out what's going to work best, but I think the ITLA stuff is going to be the best solution at this point for this project. I did go to the Amherst Train Show, which I'm sure most, if not all of you, are not strangers to. It was my first time going. It was very impressive. There were my biggest takeaway, I think, where there were quite a few. Well, there was a local hobby dealer that I was not aware of at all, and they work out of Ansonia, Connecticut, and they don't have a storefront, but it's a local business that I will definitely be supporting, and I had no idea that they existed. They had not come across my feed or searches, so that was great. And then there was a product line, BEST, or Best, I forget, it's stands for somebody's name. His name's escaping me, but I had no idea they existed, and they have tons of casting and scratch building materials, shingles, stonework castings. So that was huge that I saw. I guess they're in New Hampshire, and that was amazing to see. I had never come across their stuff, so totally eye-opening. Great experience. I went with my dad, who got me in the hobby 30 years ago, so that was a special day that we spent together. We went on Saturday. Very crowded, tons to see. There was some stuff that I had checked off that I definitely wanted to check out, as well as some pleasant surprises. So definitely worth going if you've never been. Next year, I probably plan on getting some money together and kind of a shopping list of things that I will dig through, because there's a lot of individual collectors and things that have a lot of great stuff, and I kind of wasn't in the mood for, there wasn't anything specific that I was looking for. I just kind of wanted to go with an open mind, and so it was a great experience. So I'm going to change the angle so you can see what this looks like a little bit better, and then we'll go from there. So you can kind of see the 3 tracks go under. I've got a 2x4 block on the left side there, but I think it's going to be one open tunnel-ish kind of thing, and building on top, and then building coming towards this section here. I kind of like that idea of a shorter structure coming out, kind of blocking the train as it goes behind here, so it doesn't look like it just goes into the building tunnel. It kind of looks like it runs parallel to a building alongside there, kind of disappears out of sight, and then, you know, it'll be dark enough under there. I could put a mirror under there, so if you were to look under there, you won't see, you know, just the flat backdrop. So I kind of like the way this is set up. I think it looks somewhat natural. might go through some adjustments as I make the second mock-up, and I'm not 100% sure on the modules that I would need, but we'll see. It's a work in progress, but I'm kind of thinking this approach as opposed to like a city street kind of thing, because then it's like, where does the road go once it hits the Willoughby frozen meat? So that's all kind of still being developed, but I'm on a good start. I'm on a good track, no pun intended. And so let me show you some other things around the layout that I've been working on, and then we'll go from there. So I've been working on, if you follow my Instagram, you've hopefully noticed the Willoughby sign go up, but I've got the Willoughby frozen meat sign here that I kind of scratch built a little billboard-esque type sign for, and then I put one on the front of the building as well, and they're just kit bashed out of various parts that I had and then printed out. I used Canva for my signage, and it's got a little bit of white fringing on top from the paper, so I still have some weathering to cover up on that, and probably some stain runoff from the bottom of the 3 posts on there. But overall it looks pretty good, and I finally have a sign up there, so it's officially open for business. And let me show you the next bit of signage that I'm working on. So I lied at the beginning. I've got this on a tripod, but I'm holding it. Hopefully that's not too much motion, but I can only hold it so still. But that's my sign for the Ferris Dairy, which is officially open for business as well. And that again was kit bashed, or scratch built rather, sign printed out. I used transfer tape, which was a suggestion of a fellow model railroader, and that stuff works great. So that was transferred, or using transfer tape on a piece of styrene, and then I kind of framed it out and supported in the back. I'm going to just move this so you can see. Just got 3 little posts in the back, and it's weathered behind there, but it's up, it's good, it looks good. I'm pleased with it. And let me show you, I did a few transfers onto some of the buildings in downtown Willoughby. So let me show you those. So I did this sign. This is just paper printed, regular inkjet, that I then thinned down using sandpaper, and then used Mod Podge to secure it to the side of the structure. And I did the same technique on the other side. It looks pretty good. I could probably weather it a little bit more. Some of it would start to fall apart. I have to take a closer look. I did this last night. I have to take a closer look to see what I need to adjust on it. But from here, it looks pretty good. And let me show you the other side of this row of businesses at the other sign I did. So with this one, it's starting to peel at the top, as you can see. So I need to secure that down or cut that. But it holds the integrity of the wood paneling underneath. You can really see that coming through, so it looks pretty good. But I need to kind of clean up the edges and things. But from afar, it looks okay. It's passable. And pretty pleased the way this came out. I did this one last night as well. Thinned out the paper after it was printed, and then used Mod Podge matte medium to secure it onto there. If you Mod Podge right on top of inkjet, it will cause the colors to run a little bit. So you could probably spray it with a matte medium, like a spray medium, to secure it, kind of, I guess you would. I haven't done it, but I know I've seen plenty of videos on it. When you make your own decals to print out, you spray them with a matte medium so the colors won't run as you dip it in the water and stuff. I think that would probably help this application as well. I just did the paper, brushed the matte medium Mod Podge onto the surface of the building, and then just laid it on top. And then I put a coat on top lightly, but again, that coat of matte medium Mod Podge will make the colors run, unless you probably spray it with like a spray medium, like a matte medium, like a spray can, like a rattle can or airbrush on top, to kind of preserve the colors in there. But that's just one step that I decided not to do, and it looks good. When the colors run, it does look faded, so it adds a bit of weathering within that process. I'm pleased with the way this came out, but for some of the other ones that I've done in the past, it probably would have been better if I had done that. Kind of secured the color so it didn't run and bleed once I applied the matte medium. You can get away with just doing the matte medium underneath, but I kind of like to coat the top of it as well, and again, that's when you run into the color running issue, if all of that makes sense. So, but I'm pleased with this sign. I might add one or two other ones. Again, it's you know, consider the layout a work of art, and a work of art's never really complete, so adding details here and there as I see fit is part of the fun process. So let me show you the next bit that I'm working on. So the Feathersmith oil got its official sign, so it is officially open for business as well. This, I didn't thin the paper down, I just put it on the transfer tape, which I'll show you in a second, and just printed it out, cut it out, I printed out, put the sheet onto, or part of the rough cut of the sign onto the transfer tape, and then fine cut the whole sign. Once it's on the transfer tape, remove the backing and apply it to the structure. I probably could have made this more of a less of a hard sign rather, and more of a printed on the brick sign, to get the brick texture through there. But honestly, this kit is odd. I've seen it on another layout or two. It's like it says it's HO. I forget who makes it. It's an old kit if you recognize it. But it's the door that was initially on there it looked N scale. So the green door there on the left, I replaced that with that door that's more HO scale. But the door that was initially on there, it looked way small. It looked N scale. So I don't know the official scale of this building. It fits in this spot, but the relief on that brick is very, very thin. So I decided to just make a hard sign. I could probably weather the edges and rough it up a little bit so it looks less brand new. But for now, it's gonna stand. But those are the signs that I've been working on. I've got a few other signs that I'm gonna work through this update on, so you can see those, but these are the ones that I've got up already. So let's go to the next bit. Okay, so once again, I've got another shot that's not on a tripod. I'm just holding it. Not gonna move around too much, but I've been working on this section here, the road that goes across the Forstmann clock industry. I've put my own wood crossing. I can show you how I did that, and that's in place. I used, again, the transfer tape and actually cross bracing from a trestle kit that I had for the panels. I need to paint and weather a little bit more so it looks a little more wood-like. Not too unpleased with the way it looks at this point, but this weekend so far, I've added more cement pavement to this area, added the wood crossing, and then put pavement behind this building. And I've got a printout I'm going to try so we can see how that looks. I'm going to move this angle so you can see the road go behind the Forstmann clock. I've also got a Forstmann clock sign that I'm going to put up, so we'll take a look at that. So this is what it looks like behind there, and first layer of paint is down. I need to, obviously do a much better job on this. There's some products that I want to try out, which I may try back here. But for now, it serves its purpose. It finally has that road that goes somewhere. So I've got a printout of a structure that I'm going to put behind there that's just going to be flat for now. There's not a lot of room for anything back here. I could get a low relief, like a backdrop building or background building, but then it's going to kind of look like the road runs right into it. So I'm going to try something just on a piece of cardboard or just flat paper for now and see how that looks. I forget which update it was, but I recently had made a bunch of lumber loads for the industries that use wood, and then this last month I've been working on a bunch of metal loads. So not exactly sure what kind of metal it would be, but for the WV Whipple, they do equipment and parts, so they would need metal. Forstmann clocks would need metal. So I've got a bunch of industries that have a need for metal, so I made a bunch of like flat sheet metal loads and some pipe loads that I need to paint and weather a little bit more. But for most of these were on my Instagram as well. Most of these are, this one I think is, no, this one is the window glazing. So on a lot of the Walthers kits, they give you like a thick clear glass or clear plastic for the glass or glazing on the windows, and they come in various sizes depending on the window, and they're good styrene to just use or plastic to just use for various things. So I found the use of using them for metal loads. So stacking them up, painting them, weathering them, they look pretty convincing as metal as these were. You can see it was sanded, but there's, I don't know if you can kind of see on it's clear, just clear layers, and then I just rattle can primed them with a gray, and that's pretty much the gray that you see, and then added some rust on the sides. This one I need to add some supports probably, or like bracing underneath, kind of like a platform for them to, or wood for them to kind of sit on, like this one. But they look pretty decent. You could weather them more. There's a little piece of something there that needs to get removed at some point, but they look pretty convincing for new sheet metal. And then I did some pipe ones as well. These I still need to work on the bracing, because they would roll off of those just flat pieces. So I need some extra supports on there, maybe some wood that goes here on the ends to kind of hold them in there as bracing. Maybe some chains or roping to go around them to hold them, as some chains or roping for these loads as well. Otherwise these would just fly around in transit. So I've got another little couple things to do on some of those, or all of them, but for the most part they look pretty decent, and they work well on the flat cars that I've got, and was kind of busy using scraps and so forth to make these loads, and it was kind of a fun little project. So I've got a few other ones. This is another one. You can see that's clear glazing. It's thicker, so you can see the layers there. That's how thick they are. I don't know the dimensions of them, the thickness of it, but they work pretty well. So if you've got some flat loads that you're trying to make, and you've got some old Walthers window glazing, it's a great little thing. I don't know what else they can be used for. I'm sure a billion different things, but that's what I use them for. Okay, so I've got the printed backdrop in the background there. It's obviously just a flat piece of paper. I just scotch taped it to the back wall there in 2 spots, so you can see from this angle you can't really see the seam, but there's a seam in between the 2 printouts. I obviously have just a standard home 8.5 by 11 printout, so to get something printed out larger you have to print it in sheets and then tile it together. So I have some cutting and pasting to do, probably manually, but I could also do the same in the computer and actually legit tile it before I print it, but I think I'll just do it by hand. But if I add some details, a car or two, some kind of weeds and stuff, boxes, crates, garbage in front there where the paper comes and hits the pavement, I can make that look more natural. The only issue that I have really is it does look flat right against the concrete of my basement on the left side and on the top. So maybe if I add a structure or two in the distance, that can add some depth so it doesn't just look like a flat piece. So there's some other things I can do to modify this to make it look better, but for now it's going to sit for a little bit until I figure out what I need to fix. And let me get working on the Forstmann clock sign, and that actually is going to sit up in this area here probably, or this area, so that will visually add some change, some difference in the skyline, so to speak. Maybe, possibly, it'll be something else to focus on, so you don't focus on the clean top line of that structure. So every little bit helps. Every little bit gives you something else to look at and something else to not focus on. We tend to focus on hopefully the good things of a layout as opposed to the imperfections of a layout. So the more good things you have to look at, the least you're going to notice the imperfections At least that's how I approach how I design things and how I view things. So yeah, every little bit helps. So I'm gonna work on that sign, get that up, and if this update is not too long at this point, I will go over how I am doing operations, because I have made a major breakthrough in how I do operations on the layout. Layout has not changed, but my electronic formats for my operation sessions has drastically improved. So we'll get into it. Okay, so I used the transfer tape, styrene, and some strip wood that I had left over from some other projects, printed out my Forstmann clock sign, and got it up on here. The roof is slightly angled, so I just sanded the middle two braces so they fit level, and it looks pretty good. I did the back of it. I just kind of made up the structure as best I thought would work. For a background sign, it works pretty well. It's probably a little thick, the wood that I used, but it works. Okay, so this is, I'm gonna try to do this as quickly as I can. This is my spreadsheet for my operations. You can see the cars on the left. I've got a comment so I can kind of quickly identify them a little bit more easily. The type of car they are, the length, and whether it's loaded or empty. I've got drop-down menus for those. And then I've been keeping track of the moves that I make with them. So if they get moved in a session, I'll put an X there. I'm not too good with keeping track of that, but if I continue that, I'll kind of be able to make sure that all the cars get moved around. The location where they currently are, so every car's got a current location, and then once they go into an operation, they will get a destination, so where they're starting and then where they're going. And these are all drop-down menus, and then I'll group them by which direction they're going and assign them a train, so I can keep track of what train is got which cars, where they're coming from, and where they're going to. Something just reset on me. There we go. Not sure what happened there. And then I'll just go from there. So for example, this eastward train is going to start off in Sterling Yard, a bunch of industries in Sterling Yard, as well as just the regular sign tracks. And then these are the different destinations they're going to. And so I'll just kind of arrange everything, get a locomotive set up, and head towards Willoughby. And then I'll make the drop-offs at the different destinations that are assigned here. So it's very manual. There's nothing random, no random function generators or anything, but it works well for what I've wanted to get out of operations. It keeps track of where all my cars are. I've got numbers on the locations assigned so I know how many cars can fit on that siding, just to keep track, especially in Sterling Yard, because my track lengths vary. So on track 2 I can hold 5 cars, on track 3 I can hold 10, and so on. So when I set up destinations, if I'm moving something back to Sterling Yard, I make sure that I don't exceed the maximum number of cars I can have on there. And then today I started to play around with assigning locomotives to trains. So I've got my locomotives set up in a drop-down menu, and I can start assigning them. I'm not sure how I want to apply this, if I will, but for now it just kind of, you know, at the head of the train, at the head of this, I know I'm going to have my RS3 number 552, and I'll see how that works, whether I want to make sure that I've got tabs on where every locomotive is at any given point or not. I'm not really sure if that's going to complicate things, but at this point, this is pretty much what I have. So again, nothing's random, everything's manual. Once everything's reached its destination, I click destination, I go to the blank line here, and on its location, I have to change its previous location to its new one, which is obviously in the destination section. So I would just change this one to Willoughby Meet once it gets there. If for some reason I'm in the middle of an operating session and I don't finish, but things have been moved already on the current location, I have an en route tab that I can go to down here, so I know that it's not at its current location, it's en route, and it still has to get to its destination. It could be a little misleading if I forget exactly where things are, but again, that's why I assign the trains. Everything's color-coded. So that's what I've got. If anybody's got any questions or anything, feel free to ask. But I've used it for several weeks. It's super quick, super easy and intuitive for me. I kind of like the idea of random function generators. However, with over a year of trying different things out, this works really well. I've got a small layout. It's end to end. I kind of can keep track of what was picked up, picked up or dropped off last time. Kind of rotate between raw materials and finished goods and that kind of thing. So it works really well. So that's going to do it for this update. Hope everybody has a great February. Had a little snow today, a little snow hopefully on Thursday. So have a great February. Stay safe, be good to one another, and we'll see you in March.